In 48 AD, Paul wrote his first recorded letter, the Book of Galatians. This was a letter to the church in Galatia in which Paul asserts not only his apostleship, but his authority as a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. You can sense the urgency in this book because Paul comes forth as a defender of the gospel and a declarer of what the true gospel is. It's very important because he reminds the readers that, hey, somebody has bewitched you. Somebody has taken you from your foundation of true faith in Jesus Christ and messed up, perverted the gospel that you've believed in. And so he comes in as a heavy hitter in this book with an urgency of returning them back to that true faith. And so there are a few elements about the gospel that we need to learn from this short letter. And the first thing is that the true gospel is the gospel of Jesus Christ. There is no other salvation in any other name than Jesus Christ. And so as we live for the approval of God, you can only be approved by faith in Jesus, by the grace of God delivered through him. And so that's what Galatians is about. It's about letting them know, establishing this is the true gospel, and reminding them that the true gospel creates a new multi-ethnic family. One of the issues in the letter of Galatians goes back to the Jerusalem Council in Acts chapter 15. That's about the time that this letter was written. Paul is addressing here a need for them to realize that the gospel crosses racial boundaries. And in that, he reminds them that we are justified by faith, not by law. So not by being an Israelite and trying to live by a certain law in which they could not fulfill, but we're justified by faith. And it was Jesus in our place. Look at chapter 3, verse 13. Here's what Paul writes. He says, Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law, having become a curse for us. For it is written, cursed is everyone who hangs on a tree, in order that in Christ Jesus the blessing of Abraham might come to the Gentiles, so that we would receive the promise of the Spirit through faith. It's a great reminder during that time that the gospel had crossed to the Gentiles, and that they are now the sons of Christ. Listen to chapter 4, verse 6 and 7. He says, because you are sons, God has sent forth the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Therefore, you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir through God. I love those verses because it reminds us that Galatians is not a book of legalism. It's a book of liberty. It's not a book of law. It's a book of love. It's not a book of bondage, but a book of freedom. In fact, he tells them, chapter 5, verse 1, it was for freedom that Christ set us free. So the reminder is there is a true gospel. That true gospel creates a new multi-ethnic family, and the true gospel brings forth transformation only by the Spirit. We have a freedom to serve God and to serve one another. We have a freedom to walk in the fruit of the Spirit, not the works of the flesh. And that freedom then teaches us to bear one another's burdens. Chapter 6, verse 2, bear one another's burdens and thereby fulfill the law of Christ. He reminds us the greatest thing we can do is to love God and love people. That is seen in the true gospel.